I really apologize for sending you the link late. There's too much happening here. That's why, Prabhuji, I'm sorry. But we've got the devotees staying at my house, so I was...
Everything will be all right.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. So we can start with the Mangalacharan. Prahlad, would you like to do the Mangalacharan? Hare Krishna.
Hey Krishna, yes, I can do it.
Okay.
Om Ajnana Timinandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tatati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saha Gana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saha Gana Lalita Shri Visakam Vitamsya Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dena Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Ade Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prahlad Prabhu, for reciting the wonderful Mangalacharan. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for joining in, and sorry for not giving you the shloka earlier, and I ambushed you at the last minute, Prabhu. So I really apologize for that, Prabhu. Prabhu, we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 1, and we are on Chapter 5. Chapter 5 is Narada's instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam, and the text for today is text 24. So, Prabhuji, do you want us to read the text and the translation and the purport?
Please.
Okay. Maybe I can try the text. Te maya pita kila chapaler bhake dante dritya kridan na kinrutvartini cha ruha krimpam yadaya pitulya darshana surushmane munayo ipabhasini. Hare Krishna. We could do word to word. Te, they. Mai, onto me.
Unto me.
Apeta, not having undergone.
Apeta, not having undergone.
Akhila, all kinds of.
Akila, all kinds of.
Kapale, chapale.
Chapale.
Chapale, proclivities.
Proclivity.
Proclivities. Arbhake, onto a boy.
Onto a boy.
Dante,
Dante,
having controlled the senses.
having controlled the
senses.
Ardra kridan nake. Ardra. Without being accustomed to sporting habits.
Without being accustomed to sporting.
Anuvartini,
Anuvartini,
obedient.
obedient.
Chakruha,
Chakru,
did bestow.
did bestow.
Kripam,
Kripam,
causeless mercy.
causeless mercy.
Yadyapi,
Yadyapi,
although.
although.
Tulya Darshanaha,
Tuyadarsanaha,
impartial by nature.
impartial by
Shushru Samane,
Shushusho Samani,
onto the faithful.
unto the faithful.
Munyaha,
Yaha,
the Muni followers of the Vedanta.
the Muni followers,
Alpabhasini,
Anupasani,
one who does not speak more than required.
one who does not speak more than
required.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Although they were impartial by nature, those followers of Vedanta blessed me with their causeless mercy. As far as I'm concerned, I was self-controlled and had no attachment for sports, even though I was a boy. In addition, I was not naughty and I did not speak more than required. Hare Krishna. Peter Prabhu, would you like to read the purport? Do you have the Srimad Bhagavatam?
Hare Krishna Mataji, I'm trying to look for the text. I've seen it's 1.4.9, or which is it today?
1.5.25.
Oh, okay.
1.5.25.
2:4.
Sorry, 2.4. Sorry, 2.4.
So the translation.
Translation I've read, but you can read the purport.
The purport. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, all the Vedas are searching after me. Lord Sri Chaitanya says that in the Vedas, the subject matters are only three, namely to establish the relation of the living entities with the personality of Godhead, perform the relative duties in devotional service, and thus achieve the ultimate goal, back to Godhead. As such, Vedanta Vadis, or the followers of the Vedanta, indicate the pure devotees of the personality of God, of the personality of God. Such Vedanta Vadis, or the Bhakti Vedantas, are impartial in distributing the transcendental knowledge of devotional service. To them, no one is enemy or friend, no one is educated or uneducated, no one is especially favorable, and no one is unfavorable. The Bhakti Vedantas see that the people in general are wasting time in false sensuous things. Their business is to get the ignorant mass of people to reestablish their lost relationship with the personality of Godhead. By such endeavor, even the most forgotten soul is roused up to the sense of spiritual life, and thus, being initiated by the Bhakti Vedantas, the people in general gradually progress on the path of transcendental realization. So the Vedanta Vadis initiated the boy even before he became self-controlled and was detached from childish sporting, etc. But before the initiation, he, the boy, became more and more advanced in discipline, which is very essential for one who wishes to make progress in the line. In the system of Manashrama Dharma, which is the beginning of actual human life, small boys after 5 years of age are sent to become brahmacharis at the Guru's ashram, where these things are systematically taught to every boy, be he a king's son or the son of an ordinary citizen. The training was compulsory not only to create good citizens of the state, but also to prepare the boy's future for spiritual life, for spiritual realization. The irresponsible life of sense enjoyment was unknown to the children of the followers of the Varnashram system. A boy was even injected with spiritual acumen before being placed by the father in the womb of the mother. Both the father and the mother were responsible for the boy's success in being liberated from the material bondage. That is a process of successful family planning. It is to beget children for complete perfection. Without being self-controlled, without being disciplined and without being fully obedient, no one can become successful in following the instructions of the spiritual master. And without doing so, no one is able to go back to Godhead.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for reading the purport. Prabhuji, we hand over to you now. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Before I begin, I offer my respects to all the assembled devotees. I'll read the text again. Although they were impartial by nature, those followers of the Vedanta blessed me with their causeless mercy. As far as I was concerned, I was self-controlled and had no attachment for sports, even though I was a boy. In addition, I was not naughty, and I did not speak more than required. So in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 8th chapter, Lord Krishna says, a brahmana, Abrahma Purnar Arvitano Arjuna, that from the highest planet, Brahmaloka, down to the lowest planet, all are places of misery. No matter where one goes, one will experience the actual difficulties of human life, which is birth, death, old age, janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi. So it doesn't matter. As long as we have this material body, that we are embodied, we are faced with birth, misery of birth, of death, mrityu, janma, mrityu, jara, old age. Now we may feel strong and have energy to do the things we're doing. But in older age, we get into our 70s and 80s. The body does not work the same. We're not able to eat and enjoy food in the same way. We're not able to enjoy many things that we enjoyed before. And life becomes more and more troublesome. Janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi. So it certainly is a problem how we are going to make our car payment, how we're going to make the house payment, the different difficulties and things that have to be accomplished in our workplace, meeting sales goals, sales quotas, and filling out the right forms and performing our work to the right standard and pleasing our supervisors. It is challenging and it can be difficult. Our parents, our spouse, our children, there are many challenges in life, difficult. But the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna, he comes to give us a final solution. How to make our company successful, how to have more money, how to pay the bills, how to put food on the table. These are certainly necessary, and we are happy to have solutions and opportunity. But the truth is that there is a much larger picture of existence. As Lord Krishna explains in the 8th chapter, Brahma Bhuvanao Loka, Arpuna, Vavartina, Arjuna, that this material world is temporary. Dukkalayama Shashata, it's temporary and it's miserable. So the devotees of Krishna, they know this, and they arrange their life accordingly. The non-devotees who don't have the shelter of Krishna, the shelter of Krishna's pure devotee, the light of divine wisdom, Om Gyanat Varandasya Yananjana Shalakaya, who do not have that chakshu, the vision. They are not concerned with where they're going to go at the end of this life, and simply concern themselves with day-to-day living, which is truly something we need to do. But the Bhakti Vedantas, or the devotees of Krishna, they give us the transcendental vision. Om Gyanatimarandasya Yanangana Shalakya Chakshur. They open our eyes with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. And they teach us, the representatives, the pure devotees of Krishna, they teach us the instructions of Krishna, the advice of Krishna, so that we can attain the highest goal of life. In the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is entitled The Yoga of the Supreme Person, Lord Krishna explains to Arjuna that, what is that? That realm of mind, the eternal abode of mind, there is no birth, there is no death, it is full of light, and once having gone there, one never returns. Natad vashayate suryo nashanko napavaka yadgata navartante tad dam paramamama. That my dham, my abode, tad dam paramamama, parama, my transcendental abode is the supreme destination. Natad vashayate suryo nashanko napavaka. It's not illumined by the sun or by the moon or by the stars. And once having gone there, one never returns. So this is our goal. Natevidu swartakatim hi Vishnu. That the gati, the goal of life, is Vishnu. Vishnu smriti. Natevidu gati. Vishnu smriti is to remember Vishnu. But Srila Prabhupada points out to us that to be able to achieve success, we must be very self-controlled and have self-discipline. He concludes the purport saying, without being self-controlled, without being disciplined, without being fully obedient, no one can become successful in following the instructions of the spiritual master. And without doing so, no one is able to go back to Godhead. And he discusses in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, how what in a very, very important role the mother and father play in this earthly life. It is within their hands to raise their children in such a way that the children grow up self-controlled, disciplined, and obedient. I don't know. In America, there's a saying, I think it comes from England, spare the rod and spoil the child. Which is not to say the children should be beaten. But I don't think it's very hard for us to appreciate that if children from the age of 2, 3, 4 years old just do whatever they want to do, whenever they want to do it, however they want to do it, that will not even be good for their material life, because they will not learn tapasya. Who knows what the one definition of tapasya is? What's the definition of tapasya?
Austerities, Prabhu? To
Austerity. Some other thoughts about it? Tapasya.
Penance.
Penance. What is penance? What does that mean, penance? What is the concept of or meaning of penance?
Hare Krishna.
Yeah,
Like sacrificing or giving something that is really valuable, as in is to improve yourself.
right. So these are all part of tapasya. Srila Prabhupada kind of sums it up in various places. Voluntary acceptance of discomfort. That we voluntarily accept discomfort, not being completely comfortable. Just like we have to exercise, which is not comfortable always. It's bothersome, exercise, or to study for our work, to do so many things. We put off sense gratification. We get off the couch and we go outside and we exercise. We turn off the video, turn off the television, and we study. So it doesn't take a brain surgeon to understand. It will be much easier for people if we learn this in childhood. Yes, I can do this thing after I do my chores. First, I have to suffer, to put it simply. I'm going to have to be uncomfortable. I want to eat this biscuit, and I will later. Right now, I have to clean my room. I will do this thing later, but first I have to do this. And we accept voluntary discomfort. And if children learn this or practice it at an early age, they become accustomed to it. It just becomes, we see, they're in Africa or anywhere in the world, but there are places in the world which are more austere by nature, at least in the country areas. People work hard. They collect wood for the fire. They cook their meals from basic ingredients. They clean very much. They have to work hard. And people in the cultures, they become accustomed to it, which isn't to say that necessarily they're in ecstasy all the time, having to work hard. But they don't mind it nearly as much as someone might think. You know, I've watched videos of different cultures of the world, people who live there in Africa, people who live in the Himalayan mountains, in the villages of different countries of the world. They grew up working. Here in this country, many countries, the children would walk to school 1 mile, 2 miles, 5 miles, one way. I've heard of children walking 8 miles, one way. So for many persons, especially in the Western countries, or people in the city, often, they cannot imagine such difficult. But when we have to practice it, or when we practice it from an early age, very early age, 2, 3, 4 years old, we learn to work. We learn to do service. We learn to do chores. We help our mother. We help our father around the house. And we're taught to be very self-disciplined. We can't say anything that just comes in our head. We learn how to control our speech, that we can express our feelings, but it is in a respectful way. It can be seen in many instances, children who are just horribly rude to their parents at a young age, disrespectful. So self-discipline and self-control. Many of successful chief executive officers and managers of companies, anyone who's very successful materially in this world, as a rule, they came from a very disciplined background. Many have been in the armed forces where they learned self-discipline, self-control, and obedience. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Very respectful. And they leave the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and they're prepared to work hard and build a family, build a business. So it does not take too much. We don't need to do big studies or have very expensive college research done to understand how valuable is the childhood environment. Lots of love, at least in the Vedic conception. The child should be more or less free to do whatever, with lots of love until they're 4 or 5, and then the party's over. It says the child may become the enemy, the parents may become the enemy of the child, or the child may think so. And then when the child is 14, 15, the parents in general should relax and just relate with the child as a friend, as a close friend. So important is the bonding, the friendship of the parents and the child. So they love each other and they trust each other and they develop devotion. When the parents are absent from the house, they drop the child, the mother drops, the father drops the child at some daycare for 8-10 hours a day. There is so much loss. It is such a big fault of our so-called modern civilization, the breakdown of the family environment. Sure, the young children are protected, cared for to some extent, but they're not able to develop the same type of bond, especially with the mother, as they would if she were home. And the mother is ideally the closest friend of the daughter or son, and also sometimes the worst enemy, but it's on the basis of love. So that when the child gets to puberty and the hormones start raging because of the deep bond and friendship, there is so much more potential that the teenager will listen to the parents. But if the bond is not there, and if the child has been undisciplined and not self-controlled, we see what happens. It just becomes hellish, both for the teenager, the young adult, and for the parent. So we see this goes on materially. And then here we're hearing not just materially, but for the larger picture of how can we be obedient to Lord Krishna? Where is devotion to Krishna possible if we don't have any real idea of devotion to begin with? If we are not accustomed to tapasya, it will be difficult to all of a sudden adopt the 4 regular principles, chant, and follow the sadhana of bhakti. In the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the first couple of lines of one purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that for those who have lived sinful, selfish, irregulated lives, devotion service is very difficult. There's no absolute obstacle to bhakti, but there are obstacles. And a large part of it is bad habits, just wrong habits. So the parents of devotees, all children, have such an important, valuable place in society. And the household life, the grihastha life is precious. Srila Prabhupada points out that even before birth, when the parents want to have a child, There are so many children who are born accidentally. And the parents are, from their point of view, they're stuck with the children. I mean, they may care, but it's not the same if they really wanted a child. And they were thinking, oh, let me raise my child to be a good person, a devotee. And they're in that mood, producing a child. So much different. And into that kind of atmosphere, Krishna will send a good soul. We are all born into families where we deserve to be and want to be. Therefore, Lord Krishna says that for one who practices yoga for a long time, they're born into a Vaishnava family, where right from the beginning, they are cultured. What a fortunate birth that is. So Srila Prabhupada writes, without being self-controlled, without being disciplined, without being fully obedient, no one can become successful in following the instructions of the spiritual master. And without doing so, no one is able to go back to Godhead. Very practical goals of life and very practical instructions, what's helpful for achieving it, what's not helpful. So this tapasya, in the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, eventually we'll get there. We'll probably hear about it before then. But there is a famous section where the great king, Rishabhadev, is instructing his sons. He's about to leave home for fully renounced meditation on Krishna. And he's giving them instructions. And he says, Tapo divyam puchkajena sattvam, Brahma sokyam tvanantam. He said, look out the window, especially in certain cultures. We can look out the window and we see dogs and pigs, donkeys, different animals. He said, don't be like the dogs and the hogs and the monkeys and the asses, just eating and sleeping and doing whatever they want whenever they feel like it. Tapo divyam. Human life is meant for voluntary suffering. It is. And we don't mean some kind of terrible suffering, but to accept discomfort. Tapo divyam puchka jena sat. And then what is the benefit? Brahma sokim tvanantam. The child is thinking, oh, I want to play with my friends, but I have to do my homework. I want to go to this party, but I have to study for my college exams. Yes. But by that tapasya, you'll get your college boards done and you can get a decent job. You won't have to work 2-3 different jobs. Or if you do the training, whatever it is, there is some higher benefit which is long lasting. So tapo divyam putukadena sattvam, Brahma sokim tvanantam. It's not that devotees are some unfortunate, brainwashed persons who are giving up being happy just because they're fools. No. Brahma sokim. We already have actually a wealth, a well of happiness within us, spiritual happiness, spiritual joy, Brahma sokyam. So that without eating, without having sex, without buying this, without doing that, we can feel happy wherever we are by this Brahma sokyam. And it's awakened by following the spiritual sadhana gradually over time, which takes self-control and obedience, sticking with it. And as we stick with it, then gradually more and more, we experience Brahma sokyam. In the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Param drisya, or in the 3rd chapter, Param dristva navartante. It might be the 2nd chapter, but anyway, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna encourages Arjuna that by following the regulative principles, param drisva nivartante, one will experience a higher happiness. That this is that by following these principles, it's better than becoming happy by drinking liquor. By following this bhakti process, I experience a happiness which is better than doing anything else. Otherwise, why do it? I remember long ago, one sannyasi was giving a class, and someone at the end asked a question. He said, "Maharaj, I've been here 6 years. When am I going to experience some kind of taste, some kind of enjoyment?" And the Maharaj paused for a moment. He said, "What are you talking about? You wouldn't be here if you weren't getting something from it." So we are meant to enjoy. We are. And Krishna, our spiritual father, wants us to enjoy. Any parent wants their children to be happy. God is not some dictator on some power trip who's trying to stop us from being happy, but he's trying to give us an opportunity and giving us instruction so that we can have the best happiness, the highest happiness. And some of us are so caught up in nonsense that when someone advises us to give up the nonsense, we get angry at them. It's simple psychology. You want to know why some people laugh at religious people? Because they're addicted to doing miserable things and they just can't imagine giving them up. And so they find fault with religious people. They want to put them down, get rid of them. So they're not reminded. There's nothing philosophical about it, actually. I don't want to use the word childish, but it's just emotional stuff going on most of the time. Even within our own minds, the reasons we have doubts and the reasons we're not as enthusiastic, very often, not always, but often, they have to do with our desire for sense gratification. So as the modes of passion and ignorance within us, within each of us, as the volume is turned down, devotional life becomes easier because we're not fighting as much against our own mind. It's like having a monkey in our head or a child that's demanding, give me this, give me this, give me this. But you already had 2 of them. No, I want more, I want more. It's like some crazy monkey. And it is a crazy monkey. The mind is just a bundle of feelings and emotions. So as the modes of ignorance and passion, Raja and Tamas Gun, are turned down by following the basic principles, it's less of the monkey becomes quieter. And then it's easier to do our bhakti sadhana. So it's a little troublesome, especially in the beginning, because we won't have as much spiritual pleasure as we will later. And so we're going on faith that if I stop smoking these cigarettes, if I stop doing these things, and I follow this process, I will become happy. And so we have some confidence, some faith in that. And we are often tempted. And to one degree or the other, we learn. We get burned. We let our monkey mind get the best of us, and then we find out what happens. At least, I don't know, in the Western literature or older movies, they sometimes show on the shoulders of a person, they have the devil and they have the angel. And the angel is saying, don't do that. You really shouldn't, you shouldn't do that. And then the devil over here is saying, do it, go right ahead. We'll really enjoy, go ahead. So it takes some time. It takes maybe even lifetime So we stop listening to the devil. We just put our foot down and say, no more. I'm not doing that. I'm not going over there. But then Lord Krishna says, Daivi Heshu Gunamai, Mama Maya Dharatya, Mameva Me Prapadyante, comes to Taiva Pachama. He says, Daivi Heshu Gunamai, this Maya, that monkey in your head, it's under my control. And you, as a tiny soul, cannot overcome that Maya only by your own power. And so therefore we pray. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Please, I'm tired of this devil over here telling me things. And I don't have the power always to control my mind. Even I know better. So Hare Krishna, please pick me up, pick my mind up, give me the transcendental Shakti to be engaged in thinking of you and serving your desires. We pray. We chant Hare Krishna. We offer prayers to our spiritual master, to the previous spiritual master, to Tulsi Devi, to the transcendental Holy Dham, to Govardhan Hill, to all the different transcendental personalities that for each of us may attract our heart. This is the example set by the Vaishnava Acharyas. They're praying to Govardhan Hill. They're praying to Tulsi. They're praying to the land of Navadvip. These are all transcendental personalities. Radhakunda, Shambhakunda, Giri Govardhan. They're praying to the spiritual master. Please, I am running after you, chasing, wanting to have just a drop of Krishna prema. I know I don't deserve it. I know my mind is crazy. But as you have come to give, O Lord Chaitanya, O Lord Nityananda, I am throwing myself at your feet because I cannot control my mind. Please grant me strength, pick me up. And they will. And they will. And as long as we do not deliberately, willfully go the other direction, sometimes we may have difficulty because of habit. Even after we do that, there might be that we slip because of strong habit. It could be. But as long as we do not willfully, for no good reason, break the regulative principles, and we hold on to the lotus feet of the spiritual master and Krishna and Shrimati Radharani and all the different spiritual personalities, following their instructions, we will be safe. Sarvadhamma pariyaja mamekam sharanam praja aham tvam sava papabhyo mokshishami ma suchaha. I will protect you, but you have to surrender. And that doesn't mean that we just, oh, Krishna, I surrender to you. And then we go our different directions walking away. It doesn't work like that. You know, you never go to a doctor. Oh, my dear doctor, I have this problem with my pancreas, with my liver. What do I do? And the doctor says, just follow my instructions. Do this, take these pills. If we actually do it, we'll get better. So surrender means following the instruction. And we sing the Guru Puja prayers. Guru Mukhya Vakya Chiteti Koriya Aikya. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from your lotus mind. I want to know what are the instructions so I don't fall down. I want to know what are the instructions so I can awaken Brahma Sokya. Shri Guru Charani Rate Aise Uttamagati. Attachment to your lotus feet is the perfection of all desire. So what does that mean when we say these bhajans, when we sing them? Especially as time goes on, we should learn them so that we can feel them, so that we can know them, so we can sing them with devotion. Shri Guru Charani Rate Ese Uttamagati. What does that mean, attachment to the lotus feet? Who would like to offer some thoughts? What does that mean, attachment to the lotus feet? How do I know if I'm becoming attached to the lotus feet?
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
When you're inclined to follow the instructions of the Guru.
Okay. It's a good thought. Anyone else would like to offer some thoughts about it?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, when you are doing seva or service, and you when you consider yourself the servant of the servant, so you pay the obeisances to the lotus feet when you are serving, when you are his servant. So
Right.
when that would probably mean that.
Yes. So these are all confirmed by our previous acharyas. Certainly being attached, we're enthused to do service, to fulfill the mission of the spiritual master. And we're attached to hearing the instructions. It's a poetic, it's poetry, attachment to the lotus feet. But the lotus feet of the spiritual master, they're the shelter. And what is the shelter of the Guru? It is his instructions and his service, as Prahlad said. If we don't have service to do, if we don't have some activities for our eyes and our nose and our mouth and our hands and our body, then we'll serve Maya. So to serve the mission of the spiritual master, to think of different ways to fulfill his desires, is shelter for sure, because we're busy in divine activity. It's not a botheration to sweep the temple room floor. It's a shelter. It's not a botheration to cut the vegetables or clean the temple. It is a shelter. Otherwise, what are we going to do? What are we going to do with our mind and our feelings and our thoughts? So the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya that Srila Prabhupada has very kindly given us is such a wonderful shelter so that people can get shelter and do some meaningful activity, because we're not ready to just sit down and chant Hare Krishna. Most of us, I know I'm not. We want to be busy. We want to be busy little monkeys. So if we don't have the good work to do, we're going to get in trouble. So it is a shelter. And then the instructions to be attached to the books, the writings, the words, Guru Mukha Vakya, to be attached to the words. It is our success. The spiritual master is our spiritual doctor, and he wants to save us. And so he is always giving us advice so that we can become healed and we can awaken and we won't fall away, so that we can be successful in going home back to Godhead. Gatad Vashayate Surya, Vashanko Napavaka, Yadgata Navartante, Tadam Padamamama. That's the goal the spiritual master has in mind. We may forget it from time to time, but he does not, and Krishna does not. So to be attached to such a personality who is so awake, what a blessing. Therefore, it is so important to cultivate our affection, to cultivate our devotion to Sri Guru. And therefore we have the prayers. We have the Mangal Arti prayers. We have the Guru Puja prayers. We should learn them. We should learn what the meaning is of the words, so that when we sing them, we can feel it more and more in our heart. That it's not just some song, and I'm not sure how it relates to me, but you see, So when we're chanting the Guru Puja and we chant, what is that? Chi Guru Charani Rate, E Se Uttamagati, that attachment to your books, that's very real. Attachment to your society. I'm connected to the society. I'm connected to the books. I have the shelter of a spiritual master. And then the other side is that if somehow, by some misfortune, we become if we lose our affection, if we lose our appreciation for our spiritual master and for the devotees, we're doomed. That is our death sentence. As soon as anyone becomes unhappy with, who rejects Srila Prabhupada and representatives of Lord Chaitanya, they are doomed. Why? Because they'll stop following the instructions. That's why. If you don't like your doctor and you think your doctor isn't worthy of following, you're doomed. Unless somehow you find another doctor, right? So our good feelings for our spiritual master are so crucial. Just like a child's friendliness and affection for the parents are so crucial. It's why the parents, it is their duty to spend time with the children and to bond with them, to do things so that there is a bond, a close bond. It will be good for the child. The child will listen to you more. So I'll stop here. So we can have discussion and comment.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for this very powerful class, I thought. There were lots of statements that really drilled into my head. And especially the one where you said, we are not enthusiastic because we don't want to give up our sense enjoyment. So I thought that was a real take-home message for today. So, and here we pray, oh, we want to be enthusiastic, we want to be enthusiastic, we want to love you, we want to love you. But how can you, because we are holding things in our hand and not letting go, and we still are asking for Krishna. So thank you very much for making this point so clear today, Prabhuji. For the first time, I can now, it has seeped in.
Yeah, sometimes we hear the same similar things at different times and they hit us in different ways. So there is a recommendation to pray to Lord Nityananda. If we're brave, we have to be sincere. We have to be really sincere and brave and have the courage and have the intelligence to pray to Lord Nityananda. Please help me to not be interested in sense gratification. And he will. He will arrange it. So that takes courage. It takes self-love. It takes good intelligence because it's the best thing that we can do. Just like when we go to the doctor and it takes a little courage. I have this boil. I need you to lance it. So that's what has to happen. So somehow we do it and we benefit. For those of us who are a little brave, we can pray to Lord Nityananda and our spiritual masters that please help me get over this excessive interest in sense gratification.
Yes, Prabhu, thank you very much. Prabhuji, I have a question regarding what you said. So in the present society, the parents both have to work, not for sense gratification, but they have to make ends meet. And then the child at the age of 1, I've seen, has been sent to the nursery. So, I mean, according to what you've said, that they should be with the parents at least for 4 to 5 years, and then they can go to school. But how can we help? Because they have to send their children to school or nursery or daycare or something.
We do the best we can. What else can we do? It's the Kali Yuga civilization. far as possible, as it might help, is to live more simply, however much that may be possible. You know, people have different standards of living, and they have to decide within themselves what's more valuable, what's possible. Unfortunately, sometimes it's just not possible. And sometimes it's a matter of making a choice that we're going to live more simply so that we both don't have to work as much.
Because this is universal. I've traveled in different countries, and it's universal now that all children are very rude to their parents. I mean, young children, and they answer back, and parents don't think that they can smack their children anymore. And especially in England, if you did that, they would call the police. The children have a right to call the police. They've been taught that. So, I am really scared of the next generation, what is going to come up.
And for good reason. That was one of our juniors' arguments. He said, if we kill all these men, what will happen to the children?
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments? We still have 2 more minutes, so we can push in one more question. I think, Prabhuji, there are no more questions. I'll, Arya Govind Prabhuji, is it possible for you to end the session?
Yes, yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for this wonderful class. Although there was some internet challenges, I joined a little bit late, and I apologize for that. It was a wonderful class on like Mataji told that some instructive points that you mentioned. It is really real takeaways for this today's class. Thank you, Prabhuji, once again. I request all the devotees to unmute and chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra in glorification of His Grace Dina Sharana Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Rama.
Rama Hare Hare.
Vancha kalpataru
Kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Srila Prabhupada ki,
Jai,
Shri Dina Sharana Prabhuji ki.
Jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Good to be with you. Have a good, safe week.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for today. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.